I think in some ways that may be true. And again, I do emphasize it depends on the situation, because at the end of the day, no matter what kind of financial support there is, or whether there's room at a shelter, or whether there's someone that you can speak with, it depends on the situation the woman's living in, right? So it depends on her own understanding of how she has survived thus far, and what is the best time to leave based on her own judgment. So that's important to think about. And as Samra alluded to earlier, really also understand that there is someone out there. So if there's someone out there to sort of take your hand, or that you can depend on, or that you can have a conversation, or someone is aware of what's going on, then you know you're not alone, right? So assessing the safety, your own safety and that of your children, if there are children involved, but also planning. And that's why it's one of the important tools that shelters do, is they help women create safety plans. And a woman is the one who knows best what her situation is. So yes, the financial support is important, and don't stay because of that if you can access it. But also really thinking about what are the supports that you have in place to support you. You know, I really liked the comment that was made earlier, that hope is really important. You know, so having hope as opposed to feeling desolate. You know, and when you have hope, you can take action, and so that's important. So I don't fully disagree, but again, it's really about assessing the situation for yourself and understanding that this doesn't have to be your situation, and leaving at the right time to do so is the best decision that you can make.
If I may, Rhiannon, there are two separate ways that we could support those who are seeking help and need help. One are the formal channels, right? That's what I'm talking about here. Those institutions and organizations and financial measures and safety nets that can get you out of a terrible situation and start a new chapter of healing in your life. And then there's the informal ones, right? And Samra talked about that, the kindness of friends, the kindness of strangers. Those informal supports right now, whether they were faith groups or women's groups or work, those informal safety nets are not as active. So something that every Canadian can do right now, you instinctively probably can think of a few people who are vulnerable. You know, you may not be able to go see them in person always, but you can check in on them. Don't let the abuser for a moment think that she is alone and that she is forgotten and that she has no lifeline. Just keep an eye on people. And I think that not only is it powerful in that it provides somebody who is feeling desperate and alone that hope and that connection, it also sends a signal to the abuser that we're watching you and that you don't get away with the horrible things that you may be doing.
And if I may just add to that, is that I can't stress enough the importance of hope, because yes, you can have all the institutional support and all the shelters and everything, but if you're not even inside of you feeling confident enough to reach out, if you're feeling scared to the point that, you know, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the hope, you feel like you're going to be rejected by other people, including your family, those are the biggest barriers. If you're not even going to reach out, then all those institutions can be there. But if the women that need them the most are not feeling confident enough and safe enough to reach out, then that's a big problem. And to that, I'd also add the importance of knowledge and awareness of your rights, of what is out there. Knowledge is power. So one of the things, for example, that I've started right now is a weekly connection circle, like a webinar that I do every Monday to talk about different things that are available and different knowledge bases that need to be imparted in the pandemic. For example, I've had a couple of family lawyers talk about how family law is affected by domestic violence and what kind of supports are there. I've had a CEO of a shelter last week to talk about safety planning. Next week, I'm going to have somebody talk about the role of male allies, and I'm really pleased to say, Marc, thank you for agreeing. He's going to come on and talk about shelter movers and moving services. But it's really to create a knowledge base for women, and all these episodes that I'm doing are then put up on YouTube to create this free awareness tool. So sometimes those little things that you see, for example, for me, I was in university, I saw a sign with a bunch of questions that had like, do you feel intimidated? Do you feel like you've lost your voice? Do you feel like you can't go on? Come in and talk to us. And just being able to go and talk and learn and hear from somebody that it's not your fault and you deserve better. That's what externalized everything for me. It made it like, oh my God, this isn't my fault. There's a name for this. It's abuse. And I deserve better. And that started the whole chain reaction of getting knowledge. And ultimately, that is what gave me my power back and the courage to leave. So that is most imperative right now.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I am a child survivor, and even just understanding and being able to acknowledge I am a survivor, and that when I was able to start to speak about my experience, I understood that I was not alone, that the things that I was experiencing and feeling as a young person, which I had chalked it up to, I'm a bad girl, I'm a bad person, I am doing bad things. I struggled with addiction. I struggled and was, dropped out of school at grade 10. And I never, ever really thought for a second that this could be related to what was happening in my household growing up. I just thought that I was literally bad. And now, as I stand before you as someone who's done a lot of work in healing and also working with my mom to heal each other and our relationship together, and a successful person, I think that that's such important information, because it is the lack of confidence that keeps us in situations that aren't good for us. And often it is ancestral, meaning we've watched our own parents go through it, and then we repeat the pattern ourselves by finding ourselves in a situation that is abusive. And I have experienced all of the above. So sometimes we normalize behavior because it's been seen time and time again in our homes. And what I think is so imperative that you're saying, Samra, is that we are in this together. There are resources, there is information. If any of this is resonating with anyone that's listening right now, you are not to blame. You are not alone. And there are people who love and care for you, and they may not even have met you yet. And they're there because our shared experience unites us. And I think that that's so important to say. We don't have much time left. We're going to have to hop off. So I think I'd like to end it off on one. We've talked a lot about resources today, so I know that that's adequate, and we can post also underneath our chat where people can access those resources. But I'd like to end off by just asking everyone if they could please comment onto what is giving you hope right now. What gives you hope when we think about this situation right now? And let's end on that space. And I will say that what gives me hope is seeing people like Samra who are taking all of the action to take what has been the most difficult experience of your life and turn it into a gift that you are giving back out into the world with the work that you do. And I think that that is so hopeful and inspiring, the story of
You're
you
so
and your
inspiring,
daughter.
just what you just shared. And I just have to add this quickly, that I know exactly what you were talking about, because I'm seeing that with my daughter, and she blamed herself for not being able to protect me when she was 7 years old. And I've seen, she's kind of going through what you described that you went through in your earlier life, and just seeing you as such a positive role model of hope and perseverance, it gives me hope as a mother that yes, she'll be fine. And I just want to thank you for that. I had to throw that in there.
Thank you. Marc, what gives you hope right now?
I think it's an easy answer. I get to see survivors and non-survivors every day come together to help people they've never met before. I get to see people who are showing a lot of courage and who are banding together under these terrible circumstances to make the lives of people around them better. And they're putting themselves at risk for it. And I admire them very much. So I get to see that all the time.
Minister, what is giving you hope right now in these difficult times?
Oh, I have lots of hope. As difficult as it is right now to be alive, to try and get by, as unprecedented as the challenge ahead of us is, I'm you know, I'm a child of war. I have seen disruptions lead to good things. This is a pretty significant disruption. I get hope from the fact that provincial and territorial ministers responsible for the well-being of women are working together. Despite our differences, we are united. I get hope from a vibrant movement of feminists and equality seekers across the country who are some of the most creative professionals I have ever met. There's millions of them across the country, and they are motivated and they care and they are mobilizing. It's pretty powerful to see that. I get hope from the fact that, CBC was running a series on domestic violence in shelters even before the pandemic. So the conversation is changing. Different people are having the conversation. I get hope from survivors who have the courage to step up. I get hope from the fact that the government of Canada is listening and pivoting its response to what people are telling us on the ground. And, 24 years ago this week, my family came to Canada, and a single mom with 3 girls, we ended up having to stay at a YWCA shelter in Peterborough, Ontario. And, we live in a country where, for all the challenges, there are enough safety nets around. There were safety nets around, 2 decades ago, but there are safety nets around, and there are kind, lovely people around, so that somebody like me who stayed in one of these women's shelters can 24 years later grow up to support them and continue to be inspired by them in different ways. And we will get through this. We're going to get through this like Canadians get through everything, together, with kindness, with compassion. And the fact that people like Marc and people like you are leading this work with us, with the Paulettes, with the Lises, this is a pretty powerful moment in our history for the movement for equality. And I am determined to seize every little bit of opportunity that this moment gives us to fix the cracks in our system that are showing so clearly, and make it so that there's less suffering and less gender-based violence on the other side of this thing.
Thank you so much. And Paulette, just quickly, if you can end us off with your hopeful inspiration.
Well, I thought the minister was going to use up all the hope that there was available, and there would be none left for me. So I think what I will say, I get hope from meeting a young woman who was in her early 20s, who started an extraordinary initiative called Red Pashminas, and became a part of an organization, a global organization, to enhance her own leadership, and became a young woman who presented at the UN in her early to mid 20s, and then ran in politics for mayor in her mid 20s or just after that. And then today is a minister for women and gender equality. So I get hope from that. And I am pleased to know that Minister Monsef is in the role that she's in. I'm extraordinarily proud of you, Mr. Monsef, that you are now able to make, in a position to make critical decisions that will impact women's lives, to keep them safe, to keep them housed, to give them hope. So thank you for that.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. It is Giving Tuesday, so please do think about the wonderful organizations and charities that do great work across this country. Whatever cause you feel drawn to give, please use today to even give a small bit. And of course, Shelter Movers is a national charity that is doing such fantastic work under the leadership of Marc here with us. So I know I will be using my Giving Tuesday dollars to support Shelter Movers. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Minister Paulette Paulette, Samra, and of course, Marc, for helping gather this. Let's have a blessed day, and there are resources available. We encourage everybody to find that courage and hope and keep fighting to make this country all that it can be and more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rhiannon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.